Alright, don't click the dislike button yet, alright? I know some of you guys are hovering over that thing, you might have clicked it already, but please hear me out. So, for the last 5 years or so, I've wanted little more than to play Half-Life Alyx. That thing is a dream game. But I've never had a PC-compatible VR headset because they're generally just too expensive. But in comes the Meta Quest 3S. This retails for £289.99, but I got it for £249.99 in a sale, with Batman Arkham Shadow and 3 months of Meta Quest Plus, which gives you stuff like Walkabout Golf and Tetris Effect. So a lot of really cool games included for a pretty low price for something that I only intended to use for one PC game. And look, I don't care about the Meta brand, and I didn't intend to use this as a standalone platform. But I think I was being a bit ignorant. Not about Meta as a brand, but about what the Meta Quest 3 can offer. Yeah, I still don't care about Meta, but you don't need a Facebook account to use the Quest. You actually haven't for 2 years now. And what makes the Quest different to most other headsets is this isn't just a peripheral. Inside the Quest is a mobile chipset powerful enough to run most of the VR heavy hitters in pretty great quality right out of the box. And with that also comes its own operating system, which is honestly really good. The headset can set up its own little boundary around you, and it's really cool seeing your room just mapped out in real time. And this is so you don't whack things. If you go beyond the boundary, the camera will kick in and show you what you're about to destroy, whether it's a cat or a TV. You might see the boundary pop up in my footage every now and then. I've got a lot of vertical space, but not a whole lot of horizontal space. So anyway, you probably saw the Apple Vision Pro going viral earlier this year for its use of mixed reality. Things like web browsing and video streaming windows floating around you in the real world. Well, the Quest 3 could already do that. Like the standard Quest 3 launched back in October of last year, way before the Vision Pro, and it can do everything that £3,500 Apple headset can do. You can pick up windows with your hands, resize them, move them around while maintaining real-time space. It's all really good and makes me genuinely confused why Apple is getting all the attention earlier in the year. Obviously, the camera and the screen quality is lesser because the price is also considerably lesser, especially with the 3S, but the actual functionality is not only the same, but it's better. Quest comes bundled with these two controllers, unlike Apple Vision, and these allow for so much more than just what's possible with your hands, especially when it comes to feedback. And with controllers comes what you're probably going to use VR for: games. VR's been in the public perception for years for having small games or tech demo-like games, but through all these years, a pretty respectable library has built up. And while I don't think this is going to replace how we traditionally play games, it gives us a different way to engage. But before we jump into all these games, a word from our sponsor.
This video is sponsored by Raycon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to figure out a gift for that one person in your life, the one you can never quite figure out. That person that seems to have everything they could already need. For me, I like to gift something they can use multiples of, like Raycon's Everyday Earbuds. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds make for an amazing holiday gift for anyone on your nice list, and their latest model is better than ever. Its 32-hour battery life is amazing, and their multi-point connectivity lets you pair them with 2 devices at once. And if that wasn't enough, they also now have active noise cancellation, which helps me when things get chaotic, especially when everyone's gathered around to celebrate the holidays. And did I mention they charge super fast? Just 10 minutes of charging gets you 90 minutes of battery life. That means I never have to go without. Whether I'm watching our newest videos or playing games, my everyday earbuds have got me covered. I also just love how they look. I got a protective cover with mine, and I can't get over just how amazing they look. There are tons of colors to choose from. So, what are you waiting for? Go to buyraycon.com/GVG to save big for the holidays and get up to 25% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 25% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/GVG. If you're looking for the perfect holiday gift, make sure to get your order in before December 15th to make sure they arrive in time for Christmas. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back to it.
I want to start off by showing you some mixed reality games. Basically AR, augmented reality, but in 3D space, through VR. One of PlayStation's biggest and longest-running partners, Clap Hands, stopped working with them when Japan's studio was dismantled, and now Everybody's Golf lives on exclusively on MetaQuest through Ultimate Swing Golf. Different IP, but pretty much the same game. It's a real evolution of the PS4's Everybody's Golf VR, with mechanics and some assets even that feel pulled straight out of it. It's an incredible arcade golf game, and one of the games that I played most on the Quest. 3D space is so good for working out the terrain and where the ball is. It's just so simple. It's the ultimate sport for VR. But there's also a mixed reality mode, and this makes golf real. There's really an anime caddy in my garden. Look at her. She's so close. You can either hit the ball into a giant screen using the actual courses from the game and then seeing windows like wind direction and the overview map within the actual world, or you can create actual putting greens in the real world. Look at this. It's honestly so cool. And if I didn't have anxiety about my neighbors watching me just pretend to golf around my garden, I'd be doing this all the time. But I'm scared of them. But finally, golf is real. Another awesome mixed reality game is Triangle Strategy, a port of the fantastic Switch game. Cutscenes just sort of happen on giant floating screens, but the core strategy gameplay happens on a 3D tabletop. You can scooch it around to get the best angle you want, and then just physically walk through it and see your pieces in close-up detail. I wish this game had hand tracking as well, but it's just a controller game. Like, it would have been really cool to pick these pieces up with your hands, but the controller does it fine. You can play Triangle Strategy without this in just traditional VR with virtual environments, but I'm not sure why you would. Like, this is too cool to ignore, and I want so many other games to steal this concept. Let's talk about another Switch port though. The Quest version of Samba de Amigo is absolutely rockin'. The motion controllers are far more accurate than the Joy-Con, and this might actually be the best Samba de Amigo has ever played, honestly. Seeing the hits come in with 3D depth and physically whacking the directions is amazing. And yes, we can make Amigo real with mixed reality. Like, even Sonic's real. Sonic the Hedgehog is in my living room. And lava. Help. You're seeing a 16:9 capture, but obviously the headset has a much broader ratio than 16:9, so you're not entirely seeing what I'm seeing, but I swear there are targets. They're just off screen. I'm not just flailing around and hoping for the best. And the last mixed reality game I want to show you is Arcade Paradise. You might have played this on console. It's a game where you inherit a laundrette and turn it into an arcade with real playable machines. There's some excellent games in here, and something exclusive to the Quest version is being able to take these arcade machines and place them in the real world in mixed reality. This is especially cool for light gun games, where you can tangibly pick up the gun and fire at a digital screen, and it's not done justice here in 2D. The layers of 3D in the cabinet are remarkable, and I really wish Namco or Sega would release Time Crisis or House of the Dead just like this, because it's so cool. How hasn't Time Crisis been done in VR? It's so obvious. This kind of thing isn't possible without a mobile chipset straight in the headset itself, and gives Quest justified exclusivity of these features. But Quest also has a bunch of exclusive traditional VR games, like Resident Evil 4, published by Oculus themselves and developed by a team made of former Retro Studios directors, and it is just wonderful. This is the original GameCube game in first person, and if you look down at your body, you see Leon's got a bunch of holsters. You simply reach for where these holsters are on your body and grab. So if you want your knife, grab here. If you want your gun, grab here. It will not take long for you to instinctively remember where these items are on your body. It becomes second nature. And unlike the core game, you've got free use of both hands, so that allows scenarios like this, where the pistol's in one hand and the knife is in the other. Or you can even use the other hand for a power weapon, allowing situations like this. It does make the game a great bit easier, especially as Leon ditches the tank controls for far freer movement, but is also more tense in other ways, especially when it comes to reloading. It works just like Half-Life Alyx, where you physically insert a magazine or shells and then pump the gun. For shotguns, you've got to remember to pump after each shot, but that requires two hands, you've got to ditch what's in the other hand. There is a lot of depth with this, and trying to be fancy usually ended up being my undoing, but it didn't stop me trying though. Like, this wasn't necessary, but I liked it. It is just so cool getting a full scale of the world, seeing how big and imposing the Ganados really are, interacting with puzzles that have been redesigned for real-time VR, and there's even an urgency with them, as the game no longer stops to insert keys anymore, so you've got to really be quick or just deal with the situation before doing that. I also turned off the laser sights pretty quickly because you get a ton of accuracy just looking down the iron sights, which usually isn't possible in the game, so I greatly suggest ditching that laser. The only real downside to this version is cutscenes happen in big floating 2D screens, and that's because Resident Evil 4 is animated in a strange way. Special thanks to She Says or Boundary Break here. Basically, they don't animate anything that's not in the camera frame, so giving you free control of the camera would not work. Other than that though, this is truly a spectacular version of one of the best games of all time, and I quite often hear the MetaQuest version is a bit better tailored to VR than the Resident Evil 4 remake version for PlayStation VR 2, although I've not tried that myself personally. Speaking of PlayStation VR though, PSVR 1 housed one of the greatest VR games ever made, Astrobot Rescue Mission. And while that obviously is not on the Quest or the PSVR 2, something very similar is Max Mustard. Max is not the most original game. Its format is exactly like Rescue Mission, and there's even elements of Mario and Crash Bandicoot, some pretty obvious elements, but it still comes together great. I love that, just like Astro, you are essentially a second character. You occasionally have to interact from your perspective with items or weapons while also platforming Max around. The perspective works so well for depth perception, and it's always so cool to physically peer around corners and get different views or find collectibles. Now, Max could do with the audio being a little bit punchier, but otherwise, this is an amazing game. And if you want Astro in VR but don't want to dig up the PSVR 1, then this is perhaps the best platformer you can play in virtual reality. Now, one of the greatest VR studios right now is absolutely Enhance, and they happen to be one of the best studios in general. If you've never played Tetris Effect in VR, then find someone who's got a headset and force them to let you try. It is indescribably good. Every board has so many layers of depth that amplify the already strong emotions. You'd be surprised how much more detail is hiding in these scenes beyond the Tetris board. This is already one of the best flat-screen games ever made, and it's probably the best VR game alongside Half-Life Alyx. You'd be a fool not to play it. This game will make you cry, and I'm not joking. Enhance also made a VR version of Rez, which is likewise incredible, but what I really want to shout out is Humanity. I ranked this as one of my Game of the Years in 2023, and that was playing it in 2D. I finally played it in VR, and it's so different. It's a bit similar to Triangle Strategy, where you've got these floating dioramas, and you get a real sense of how many people are walking around the screen when you see them in 3D space. The game itself is very much a new take on Lemmings, trying to guide these people around the board to get to the goal, but the level design and atmosphere are just next level. I already loved Humanity, but I'm liking it even more on Quest. Batman Arkham Shadow is the current headliner for the system, and just like Resident Evil 4, it's both published and developed by Oculus themselves, making this a first-party exclusive. There was a Batman game on PSVR 1, but it was really short and didn't even have combat. I think this kind of gave the stigma for why VR games are just tech demos. It was like, 40 minutes long? But Arkham Shadow, though, is a full-fledged 12-hour game, and there's really nothing separating what it does from traditional Arkham gameplay. The level design is a little boxier, but you're still sneaking around, using detective vision, swinging from gargoyles with your grapple, and most importantly, punching people. This is kinda sad to say, but this is the best Batman game in 9 years. Yeah, Arkham Knight was that long ago. It's just really cool doing all these hallmark Arkham mechanics in first person, while also being able to pull out batarangs and smoke bombs straight from the suit. It doesn't feel like a spin-off for a mobile game. There's a lot of care in this one, and while the story isn't too grand, it's still told really well with full voice acting and just great animation. There's a lot of Quest games now that beat the tech demo allegations with full-fledged games, like this one, and another Quest exclusive being Asgard's Wrath 2. This is estimated to take around 60 hours to finish. And it really pushes that mobile chipset. There's stuff in this game that goes beyond the vast majority of Switch games. They poured in so much detail into the world and animations, it really feels like a AAA attempt in VR on a mobile platform. It's an RPG with Skyward Sword-y combat, where you move your sword around in real time, but it's developed far beyond what that game did. You can deflect enemy swings, stab, throw your axe like Kratos, and you get a real sense of space in a way that most other first-person melee games struggle with. VR feels like the home for first-person combat, especially with swords. There's a bunch of different characters too, with unique weapons and abilities. There's so much more thrown into this game than you'd expect from a Quest exclusive. So if you want something big, this is the one. When I play Among Us, I don't usually use voice chat with strangers because I'm scared that they'll say youthful things that I won't understand, like what Riz is. In VR though, you kinda have to talk, and lying with your voice and physical gestures completely changes the game. You have to lie to people's faces now, and this tangibly created so many funny moments.
Red!
Please don't.
Is there any last words that you have?
Look behind you.
What?
Bruh! Any last words?
You.
See, if it was me, I would have a knife in my pocket.
That's
do you
true,
see
I
this?
don't see a knife. Oh,
Well, you two've been together outside of electrical all this time, and you've
yeah,
not
we've
killed
just been
John,
chatting
definitely
about
not
knives. But not having knives.
Exactly.
I was gonna do that, but I don't know if I trust you.
Oh, you
enough
go
to
ahead.
go
You do
in
it. Go
there.
on. Go. I'll watch your
Alright.
back. I'll watch your back.
Alright.
Oh. How unpleasant.
An imposter.
Yeah, that's true.
Calling fake.
Yeah,
Hey,
let's
John,
all point
John,
at
Fist bump
Cyan.
me. Fist bump me, John. Fist bump me.
Oh.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Did you miss Purple? Did you miss that Green admitted to murder just now?
Really?
Yeah.
Fine, 150 each.
Okay, fine. That's fine. Let's just keep going then.
Alright, yeah, that's good.
Among Us VR doesn't have as many maps as the core game, but I think this is the one I'm going to come back to in the future. Maybe with a curated pool of players though, because I'm scared of kids, and there's so many kids. Like, why do so many kids have VR? Were they born with the headset on? Walkabout Mini Golf is another amazing social game, and it's just a great mini golf game in general. Putting is usually something I struggle with in golf games, but it's so easy to get an understanding of the terrain in both this and Ultimate Swing Golf. I would love for more friends to get a Quest so I can just chill out and play this with them, because it rocks. Thumper is an incredible game, but I never really felt like VR was entirely needed. More atmospheric, sure, but it's a great flat screen game all the same. However, Thumper got somewhat of a sequel this year with Thrasher, and yeah, I would be shocked if this game comes to console. The mood is really similar to Thumper, but this is not a rhythm game anymore. Instead, you guide around a dragon using the cursor. You've got to avoid the lasers and destroy all the targets around you. But as the levels go on, your dragon gets much larger, meaning you're less likely to be just sort of gradually moving the dragon around, and more so doing things like giant sword swings. I ended up liking this a great deal more than Thumper, and I was surprised because it seems a lot more simple, but there's so much elegance within the gameplay. Maybe this could work on PC with a mouse, but motion is really what it needs, and it's amplified by 3D space. Now fellas, get this. My wife keeps stealing my Quest to play Beat Saber, and I think we all know what that is at this point. It's one of the most famous VR games, and with good reason. It's real good. This is something that just couldn't work on a flat screen. You need fully synced motion controls, you need full 3D depth, and I think it's gone down as one of the best rhythm games ever made, quite easily. She's bought the Queen Pack, and I'm scared she's gonna buy a lot more than that. There's also, there's Fruit Ninja. Been a while since I've seen someone play Fruit Ninja, but you know what? It's cool. Take that, you flippin' fruit. Superheart is likewise a legacy one at this point that everyone kinda knows, but it's still amazing. Time only moves when you move, so every decision has to count. What you grab, what you avoid, who you shoot. Also, speedruns are nuts in this game. I feel like this person, they should be arrested, right? I don't know what for, but they're capable of illegal things, clearly. Do we all fear them? I fear them. I highly suggest everyone plays Moss 1 and 2. Every scene you're in your fixed perspective, but on the ground is a little mouse that you control. Just like Astro and Max Mustard, it's really great to move around from a perspective that just wouldn't work on flat screens without losing a bunch of depth perception. And it's always cool leaning down to get a different view or just peering around a corner. You can interact with the environment yourself and move things around while simultaneously controlling your little mouse friend. It's just a lovely extension of the base platforming and puzzle solving. Moss has immaculate vibes and is absolutely essential. So, some of the stuff I've talked about is exclusive to Quest. A bunch of it's available on PC and PS5 too. But that integrated mobile chipset kinda changes everything. Yeah, you're gonna need to charge the Quest when you're done because the battery isn't especially great, but the completely wireless setup with everything integrated into the headset is where VR should be going. Wires are not only immersion breakers, but they get in the way. I played Half-Life Alyx completely wired up, and I wish I didn't. Like, Steam Link and Virtual Desktop are really good. They feel native, even. You can play your PC games in a completely different room, whether it's in VR or just in a giant virtual screen, and they're incredibly responsive. But what I'm trying to get at is, yeah, you'll want to connect your Quest to a PC for a few big games like Alyx and Boneworks, but I think most of the stuff plays and looks great without any of that. I didn't just pay £250 for a peripheral. I paid for a genuine platform that's as pick up and play as any handheld platform is. I can put Resident Evil 4 on standby and come back to it anytime I want, whether there's an internet connection or not. I don't need to be tethered to a console or a particular room. I can play in my office, in my living room, or the bedroom, or the garden, even public if I'm feeling ballsy. It's the cheapest headset and easily gives you the most versatility, the most games. And in the evenings, I've even found myself just casually using it for scrolling. Like, you can lie down and doom scroll without fear of dropping your phone on your face. It's a shame there aren't many streaming apps, but you can use Netflix and Disney Plus just fine on the web browser. And it's really cool getting multiple windows as if you've got multiple PC monitors, or resizing one of them to be the size of a tablet and another one the size of a TV. I fully expected this to be something I used once for Half-Life, and then just shelved it or sold it. But it's become one of my favorite things to do right now. The game library's at a point where there's multiple bangers, not just good for VR, but good games in general that are made more special because of VR. And mixed reality is just another level. I really hope more developers keep exploring that because there's so many cool use cases. And the homebrew side too. I've not dived too far into it yet, but the Quest Game Optimizer is incredible, especially for older games that are designed for Quest 1 or Quest 2. It gives Resident Evil 4 dramatically higher resolution, fully taking advantage of the Quest 3's chip. And there's homebrew native Quest ports that just need files from legit Steam copies, like Half-Life 1, fully playable on the Quest chipset. It looks and plays incredibly well. I'm doing a full playthrough of this on the side even. And Doom also. You get completely free aiming, and it's so cool to flip back and forth between enemies in a way that's not possible with a controller, or even a mouse, to be honest. And then, Tomb Raider, completely redesigned for first person. You can look down and see triangle boobs. And then there's also even a mixed reality mode. Honestly, it's a bit clumsy because you've got to push the camera out of bounds for the game to bleed into your room, but look, Lara's in my room. Playing the game like this would be next to impossible, but it's still really cool that it's there. And the default camera is fantastic. The game plays magnificently in first person, and it's great being able to manually aim your guns rather than just locking on. And again, these are all completely legally obtainable just using Steam copies of the game. So after all this, I don't just think the Quest 3 is a viable platform. I think it's a really good one. There are multiple essential games, and using it like a phone or a desktop for media and socials is great too. Virtual reality has always been the goal. We're talking like half a century of building towards this. But even today, price is a major barrier, but not really here. Quest 3S is relatively cheap while not needing anything else. No £500 console or £1,000, £2,000 PC. And I would genuinely recommend the 3S as well. The standard Quest 3 is going to give you a better quality screen, better camera, better lenses, more storage, but the experience with 3S is still rock solid for considerably less money. You're better off not knowing what you're missing because what you're getting is still a wonderful experience with lots of great games. So ignore Zuckerberg, ignore Metaverse or whatever else has plagued this brand. I finally see that Quest is a good gaming platform, and I'm not sure there's a single other headset that really comes close. Some may have higher resolutions, but in terms of the games you're going to play, and especially the ease that you play them in, this is about as good as it gets right now, while also being the cheapest. Over the last few weeks, I've been posting VR clips to Blue Sky, and the engagement was good. People thought it was cool. But when I asked them whether they thought it was cool, but in a way that they wouldn't actually want to engage with themselves, that is generally what they said. They said, yeah, cool, but I don't really care. And I think that's generally the thing with VR. You have to try this stuff to really understand how immersive and game-changing it can be. A lot of people called it gimmicky. And while, yeah, you can have gimmicky VR games, some of them also just extend beyond the boundaries of what's usually possible. And to take something that is innovative in a way that a flat-screen game cannot deliver and call it gimmicky feels dismissive to me. Like when you've got games like Half-Life Alyx and you just say like, yeah, it's just a gimmick. I think we're just rejecting innovation at that point, and it's a shame. But hopefully I've shown you some games that are genuinely good today, because good games are good games no matter what format they come in. So I'm not intending to sell you on the MetaQuest 3, but hopefully I've broadened your perspective of what it's capable of.